So before we begin, I want to draw your attention to our standard sine graph again. And I want to point out that we have, um, when we are asked to sketch a graph, we need to sketch at least one full period of this graph. And I mean, preferably 2 periods, but I will specify if I want you to graph more than one period, I will specify. But um, let's, once we have this, then it's kind of easy to extend it to the left and to the right. And I do want you to realize that it doesn't stop with one period, that this function actually goes on uh, into positive infinity and negative infinity as well. But let's focus on one period for now. So this period, for the standard function for sine x, it starts at 0, ends at 2 pi. Already mentioned that many times. And but I want to point out that it starts with the x-intercept and it ends with the x-intercept. See what the graph is doing? It crosses the x-axis at the beginning and at the end of the period. It also crosses the graph once more um, in the middle, like straight in the center of the period. Okay, so this point divides this period into two parts, 1 and 2. Now, each one of those intervals is also divided in halves, making them quarters. Okay, so this above this quarter, we have a maximum of sine function. And then if we divide the second half in half, so we have another quarter and we have the minimum of sine function there. So these are going to be our main points that we need to graph or identify and graph when we're asked to sketch a graph of a sine or cosine function. Now, the cosine function is a little bit different, but it's the same. So it's basically, its period is also from 0 to 2 pi right here. And it's also divided into 4 quarters. But at the beginning of the period, it's actually having its maximum. And so it does at the end of the period. So it begins with a max and ends with a max. Now, in the middle of that period, we have a minimum point for cosine, and then we have the x-intercept at the first quarter, and we have an x-intercept at the last quarter. So we also have sort of like quarters. The period is divided into 4 equal intervals, right? And we could tell what the function is doing at each of those division points. Just keep that in mind when sketching your graphs.